Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Today's Independence Day. We all want to go out and have a drink of milk. So please be seated. Okay, I think we can make a start now. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Guyanese. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Today's Independence Day. We all want to go out and have a drink of milk. So please be seated. Okay, I think we can make a start now. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Guyanese, friends, thank you for coming and for coming out on the 51st anniversary of Guyana's independence. I'm sure there are other places you would prefer to be at this moment in time. Anyway, happy independence to you all. Now, since independence in 1966, we have been speaking about Guyana's vast potential, but in fact not doing very much about it in real terms. That is changing. Whereas in the past, we focused almost exclusively on FDI, which is foreign direct investment, emanating from foreign countries like Trinidad, the United States, Canada, China, Russia, India, and so on. Today, we also focus on investment emanating from Guyanese overseas. So, we are keen to encourage and expand what we call DDI, or I call DDI, which is Diaspora Direct Investment in Guyana. I grew up here from the age of 13, and even as a youth, I was impressed by the extent to which the Jamaican diaspora invests in their home country, something that has always impressed me. Through thick and thin, and I mean in a political sense, Jamaicans have been keen to become stakeholders in their country of birth. In this sense, and in this sense only, Guyanese have to become more Jamaican in their outlook and willingness to invest backyard, as the Jamaicans say. I took the leap in 1994 when I relocated to Guyana and invested heavily in the forestry and mining sectors. Truth to tell, it was not a walk in the park. Today, DDI investors will be dealing with a more business-friendly government and one that is keen for diaspora business, in fact for all business in Guyana, to prosper and flourish. Here today to talk to you about the ease of investment in Guyana is our young Minister of Business and Tourism, Dominic Gaskin.
Thank you very much, High Commissioner. And you know, the wonderful thing about this world is that you never stop learning. And just now when I heard the High Commissioner say that we want to, get cracking with the program so that we can, how do you put it, go out and
enjoy Independence Day with a glass of milk.
I thought to myself, well, that's new, you know. Anyhow, Excellency, High Commissioner, and staff of the High Commission, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to you all. On behalf of the government of Guyana, I bring you greetings and best wishes. And I'd like to thank you for your attendance here tonight. You know, as a member of the government, it's always reassuring when we go overseas and we see the level of interest that Guyanese who have been away for decades still have in their country. So, as I said, I thank you for being here, and I really want to thank the organizers for putting together this event. I'm also quite happy to be celebrating Guyana's independence here in the UK with you. I'm seeing some familiar faces here. I'm happy to see those faces. You know, as someone who has spent some time in the UK, I became acquainted with the Guyanese community over here, and I'm happy to see that some are still alive and active and looking as young as ever. I think I know this constituency, and I believe I know that this constituency that has not been actively engaged by the government of Guyana over the last few decades. And fortunately, you now have a High Commissioner who I know is working very hard to improve relations between the UK and Guyana at all levels. Today marks the 51st anniversary of Guyana's independence from Great Britain. And each year, this day is commemorated in Guyana with a flag-raising ceremony at midnight on the 25th and an Independence Day parade on the morning of the 26th. And that flag-raising ceremony on the 25th, that is usually held in all 10 of Guyana's regions. I'm not sure if it is held in the overseas countries where we have large population centers, but maybe this is something we can look at. You know, it would be wonderful to see Guyanese come out on the 25th and raise Guyana's flag here in London at midnight. But of course, those of you who have to work the next day, it might not be such a good idea. And last year, I know many of you may be aware that last year's Jubilee was an extravagant event. It was very well attended. It was celebrated in a big and positive way. And we had a lot of Guyanese who returned home to celebrate with us. This year, of course, the celebrations are a lot more subdued, and that trend will continue until we reach another round number. But tonight, I'd like to extend best wishes to all of you on the occasion of our 51st independence anniversary. As we celebrate our special day, there's also much sadness in this country as a result of the tragic occurrence that took place on Monday night in Manchester. And I'd like to ask that we observe a moment of silence to reflect on the loss of lives that took place on Monday. So can we? Thank you very much. I know that words cannot heal the grief and the hurt that so many families have suffered, but nevertheless, I think that we must stand in solidarity with those who have to face these random acts of terror. Fortunately, we in Guyana don't have to, but I'm aware that it's something that you live with every day over here, and things can happen anytime, any place, and you're never quite safe. That is the way of the world, and I guess we have to accept that it will continue to happen. I'd like to say a few words about the Guyanese diaspora. This is a relatively large group when one considers the actual size of Guyana's population. And it is therefore an important stakeholder in the future of Guyana, and it's a stakeholder that needs to be constructively engaged so that an effective working relationship can be established. Because the diaspora has a tremendous contribution to make to the development of Guyana. I know you probably hear that or have heard that before, but it is a fact. There is a tremendous amount of talent, experience, resources that resides outside of Guyana that is interested in Guyana. It is not as if there is no interest. We are constantly reminded that there is this group of Guyanese that may not be living in Guyana, but certainly feels a strong connection to Guyana. And as a government, we think it's important that we harness what is there, and that we find a way, some mechanism to allow the Guyanese diaspora to make a contribution to Guyana's development. The country needs it, and I believe many people, many Guyanese who live abroad want to be part of the future of Guyana, and we need to find a way to make that happen. And I raise this because having succeeded in democratically removing a government that had been in power for way too long, we were confronted by high expectations both at home and abroad. Many people at home felt and still feel that a lot of our problems would suddenly have disappeared with the coming into office of a new government. Unfortunately, you cannot neglect something for 50-odd years and expect that once you stop neglecting it, it will automatically start functioning as normal. That doesn't happen in the real world. But dealing with expectations can be challenging, and this, of course, is something that governments all over the world have to deal with, managing expectations. But we also have a similar issue with Guyanese living abroad in the diaspora, who I believe wanted to be involved from the very beginning, many of whom were involved in the campaign leading up to the change of government, and who felt that after that they could have been involved in the decision-making process of the new government. This, unfortunately, did not happen, could not happen. There are some challenges with dealing with the diaspora. It is such a large group. I don't know that anyone has ever counted the amount of Guyanese who live outside of Guyana, but the estimates range from 500,000 to over 1 million. It depends on where you cut off, whether you consider people Guyanese simply because they are have Guyanese parentage, or whether we're talking about Guyanese who actually were born in Guyana. But the numbers are large, and the challenge is that it is not a community that is organized in a way that allows anyone to easily identify who are the representatives? Who is it that speaks for the diaspora? So we are in the process of developing a diaspora engagement strategy, which we believe will provide a means of constructively engaging the diaspora and getting that contribution made that we know you are capable of, and that we know you want to make. So it's something that I want you to be aware of. There's a lot of frustration, like I said. We don't hear it so much from this end, but in North America, we get a lot of complaints, people who want to make a contribution and feel that they're being rejected, and this is certainly not something that, certainly not a signal that we want to send. We believe that we want the support of every single Guyanese who is interested in supporting Guyana, but we have to find a way to take on board all the offers and proposals that we are receiving.